The warning lights turned the command center of Harmony's Edge into a sea of red. Alarms screamed through the metal corridors of the space station. Officers from a dozen different species ran to their posts, their various forms of locomotion creating a strange symphony of clicks, slithers, and footsteps. Prism of Stars stood at the center of it all. The Zalathi commander was beautiful in the way a crystal sculpture was beautiful. Light bent through her transparent body, creating small rainbows on the walls. But right now, her usually calm blue glow flickered with orange streaks of worry. "Report," she said, her voice sounding like wind chimes. "Distress signal from Kepler 442b mining colony," answered Tekvar, a small gray alien with huge black eyes. His three-fingered hands moved quickly over the control panel. "It's bad, Commander. Really bad." The main screen came to life. The image that appeared made everyone in the room step back. A human might have said the creature looked like a nightmare mixture of a mantis and a scorpion, but bigger than a horse. Its black shell reflected light like oil, and its forearms ended in claws that could tear through steel. "Vorthak," someone whispered. The name alone was enough to make several officers touch their weapons. The Vorthak swarm was supposed to be contained. The Galactic Council had locked them in quarantine space 50 years ago, surrounded by automated defense stations. They consumed everything: metal, organic matter, energy. They were a plague in physical form. How did they get out? Prism of Stars asked, though the answer didn't matter right now. "Unknown, Commander. But they've already taken the northern mining complex. 3,000 colonists are trapped in the southern shelter." Tekvar's voice shook. "Families, younglings." Prism of Stars felt her crystalline form vibrate with stress. She turned to her tactical officer, a reptilian saurid named Hask. "How long until our peacekeeping forces can respond?" Hask's tail drooped. 3 days, Commander. The nearest patrol ship is in the Vega system. 3 days? The orange in Prism of Stars' body grew brighter. "The colony will be gone in 3 hours. There is one ship in range," Tekvar said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "A cargo hauler." "They could be there in 40 minutes. Send them the coordinates immediately," Prism of Stars commanded. "Commander." Tekvar's gray skin had somehow gotten grayer. "It's a human ship." The command center went silent. Even the alarms seemed to quiet down for a moment. Humans. Deathworlders. Every species in the galaxy knew about Earth. A planet where the weather could kill you. Where the gravity was so high it crushed visiting species. Where the oxygen levels that humans needed would make most aliens drunk or sick. A world with creatures called bears and sharks and snakes. Predators that humans somehow lived alongside. The humans themselves were classified as Class 4 Deathworlders. They could survive injuries that would kill most species instantly. They could eat things that were poison to others. They thought temperatures that would freeze or burn other species were a bit chilly, or rather warm. We can't," said a feathered Avari officer. "Humans are unpredictable, dangerous." "More dangerous than the Vorthak?" Prism of Stars asked. No one answered. "Open a channel to the human ship," she ordered. The screen flickered and changed. A human face appeared, a female with dark skin and black hair tied back. Her eyes were the color of Earth's trees, something the aliens called green. She looked tired and slightly annoyed. "This is Captain Maria Santos of the cargo hauler Stubborn Mule. We're kind of busy here, so if you're calling about that customs form from Rigel Station, we filed it 3 times already and—" "Captain Santos," Prism of Stars interrupted. "This is Commander Prism of Stars of Harmony's Edge. We have an emergency. The mining colony on Kepler 442b is under attack by the Vorthak swarm. 3,000 colonists are in danger. You're the only ship in range." The human's expression changed. The annoyance vanished, replaced by something that made several officers step back from the screen. Her eyes seemed to focus with an intensity that reminded Prism of Stars of the Predator documentaries from Earth. "Vorthak? I thought they were contained," Captain Santos said. "They were. They're not anymore. How many colonists did you say?" 3,000. "Including 800 younglings." Something shifted in the human's face. To alien eyes it was subtle, just a tightening around the mouth, a slight narrowing of the eyes. But every instinct in the room screamed danger. "Send us the coordinates," Captain Santos said. Then she turned away from the screen. "Boris, wake everybody up!" "We've got a situation." "Captain Santos," Prism of Stars said quickly, "I must warn you. The Vorthak are extremely dangerous. Commander, did you say there were kids down there? Yes, 800 younglings. The human showed her teeth. The aliens knew this was sometimes a friendly gesture called a smile, but this looked different. This looked like something their evolution had taught them to fear. Then we'll handle it. Santos out. The screen went dark. The command center stayed quiet for a long moment. Finally, the Avari officer spoke. Commander, are we sure this is wise? Humans are, well, dangerous? Prism of Stars asked. Yes, they are. That's exactly what we need right now. On the screen, Tekvar pulled up the tracking data for the stubborn mule. It was already changing course, moving toward Kepler 442b at maximum speed. The old cargo ship shouldn't have been able to go that fast, but somehow it was. Commander, Hask said, studying his tactical display. The human ship. It's accelerating beyond safety limits. They'll tear their engines apart at that rate. Humans, Tekvar said, his voice filled with a mixture of fear and awe. They don't care about safety when younglings are in danger. I've heard stories. What kind of stories? The Avari asked. A human once lifted a ground vehicle to save a trapped youngling. The vehicle weighed more than 2 tons. The human tore every muscle in their body, but they lifted it. Tekvar's huge eyes grew even wider. Another jumped into ice water to save younglings. The water was cold enough to kill in minutes. The human stayed in for 15 minutes and saved them all. That's impossible, Hask said. For us, yes. For humans, Tekvar pulled up a data file. Their bodies produce something called adrenaline in danger. It makes them stronger, faster, able to ignore pain. They become something else. Something more. Prism of Stars watched the blip of the stubborn mule racing across her display. 12 humans on an old cargo ship against a Vorthak swarm. It should have been suicide. But something in Captain Santos's eyes had told her otherwise. When the human had heard about the younglings, something had changed. Something primal. Something that made even Prism of Stars, safe in her command center light years away, feel a shiver through her crystalline form. Prepare medical teams, she ordered, and have the fleet ready to jump the moment they can, either to help with evacuation or to witness what humans are capable of. You think they can actually do something? Hask asked. Prism of Stars thought about those green eyes, that showing of teeth that wasn't quite a smile. I think we're about to learn why Earth is classified as a death world, and why humans are the apex species of that world. The tracking display showed the stubborn mule pushing harder, its engines running so hot they appeared red on the thermal sensors. Any other species would have shut down the engines, would have been cautious, careful. But humans weren't any other species. They were Deathworlders, and someone had just threatened their young. The inside of the stubborn mule looked like organized chaos. Captain Maria Santos moved through the narrow corridors of her ship with practiced ease, dodging crew members who were running in all directions. The old cargo hauler groaned and shook as its engines pushed beyond their limits, but Maria knew her ship. She could hold together. She had to. Captain, you're insane, Chen, the ship's medic, shouted over the noise of the straining engines. We're haulers, not soldiers. Tell that to the kids down there, Maria shot back, pulling herself into the cargo bay where most of her crew had gathered. 12 humans stood in the massive space, surrounded by mining equipment and shipping containers. They looked like what they were: cargo runners, mechanics, space truckers. Not heroes, not warriors, just regular people who had been in the middle of a boring delivery run 10 minutes ago. Boris, the ship's engineer, was a mountain of a man with a gray beard and arms like tree trunks. He was Russian from Siberia and had once told Maria he'd fought bears for fun as a child. She'd thought he was joking until she saw the scars. Vorthak, Captain? Boris asked, his accent thick. The bug things that eat everything? That's them, Maria confirmed. 3,000 colonists trapped. 800 kids. Kids, repeated James Thompson, their navigator. He was Australian, tall and lean with sun-damaged skin and a lazy smile that hid a sharp mind. Well, that changes things, doesn't it? We don't have weapons, pointed out Lisa Park, their communications officer. She was the youngest of the crew at 25, but she'd grown up in Detroit during the water wars. Unless you count mining lasers and loading mechs. Maria looked around the cargo bay, her eyes taking in the equipment they'd been hauling. Industrial mining lasers, demolition charges for asteroid braking, loading mechs with hydraulic arms, fuel cells, miles of cable and chain. I count them, she said. A smile spread across her face. It was not a nice smile. Boris, can you convert the mining lasers into weapons? Boris cracked his knuckles. The sound was like breaking wood. Give me 20 minutes and some duct tape. Thompson, those pets you're not supposed to have on the ship. Thompson's grin widened. What pets, Captain? I definitely don't have a collection of Earth's most dangerous insects in my cabin. That would be against regulations. Right. Don't prepare them for deployment. That would be wrong. Maria turned to the rest of the crew. Listen up. We're going up against things that eat metal and flesh alike. They're fast, they're hungry, and they outnumber us probably 1,000 to 1. Sounds like Tuesday in Chicago, muttered Raj, their cargo specialist. He'd grown up in the underground fighting rings before escaping to space. Exactly, Maria said. So we do what humans do best. We get creative, we get mean, and we get those kids out alive. What's the plan? Asked Chen. We improvise, Maria said. Several crew members actually laughed. Boris, weapons. Thompson, prepare your absolutely not illegal collection. Chen, get the medical bay ready and prep stims for everyone. Stims? Chen raised an eyebrow. Captain, that much adrenaline could keep us fighting when we should be dead. Do it. Maria turned to the twins, Marcus and Diana Webb. They were ex-military, dishonorably discharged for a bar fight that had left 3 military police in the hospital. You two still remember how to fight? Diana cracked her neck. Like riding a bicycle, Captain. A bicycle with guns, Marcus added. Good, start teaching everyone else basic combat. We've got 30 minutes. As the crew scattered, Lisa called out, Captain, shouldn't we have a real plan? Maria walked over to a shipping container and punched in a code. The door swung open, revealing something that definitely wasn't on their cargo manifest. Who says we don't? Inside were crates marked with Chinese characters. Maria had been smuggling them for a contact on Mars, no questions asked. But she'd peeked. Construction explosives. Enough to turn an asteroid into gravel, is that? Lisa's eyes went wide. Yep. And we're going to use every bit of it. Maria grabbed a crate. Help me move these. We're going to turn this ship into the biggest, ugliest, most dangerous thing the Vorthak have ever seen. 20 minutes later, the cargo bay had transformed. Mining lasers had been stripped from their safety housings and mounted on improvised turrets. Boris had somehow built what looked like a flamethrower out of fuel lines and a welding torch. The loading mechs had been fitted with spinning saw blades meant for cutting through asteroid rock. And everyone was armed with something. Crowbars, cutting torches, nail guns from the construction supplies. Thompson stood next to a clear container that seemed to be moving. Inside were things that made even the human crew step back. Spiders the size of dinner plates. Centipedes as long as a human arm. Something that might have been a scorpion but looked angrier. Sydney funnel web spiders, Thompson said proudly. Box jellyfish in that sealed tank there, don't touch it. Oh, and my personal favorite. He held up a small jar with what looked like an innocent ant. Bullet ants. One sting feels like being shot. Hence the name. You're insane, Chen said. We're about to fight alien bugs with Earth bugs, Thompson replied. Of course I'm insane. We all are. Music suddenly filled the cargo bay. Lisa had connected her personal player to the ship's speakers. The sound was violent, aggressive, drums like gunfire and guitars that screamed. The aliens called it metal music and couldn't understand why humans created such noise. Metallica? Boris asked, nodding approval. Good choice. If we're going to die, Lisa said, we're going out with style. We're not dying, Maria announced, strapping on a makeshift armor plate Boris had welded together. We're humans. We're from a planet where everything tries to kill us from the moment we're born. We evolved on a death world. These Vorthak, they're just another predator. And humans? She looked at her crew. These ordinary people who were preparing for war with mining equipment and pure determination. We're the apex predator. The ship's computer beeped. Captain, Lisa reported, checking her console. We're 10 minutes out. I'm getting signals from the colony. The Vorthak have breached the outer defenses. The colonists are falling back to the central shelter. How many Vorthak? Sensors show. Captain, there are thousands of them. The cargo bay went quiet except for the metal music still pounding through the speakers. Thousands, someone whispered. Maria walked to the view screen and brought up the image of Kepler 442b. Even from here, they could see the dark mass spreading across the northern continent like a disease. The Vorthak swarm. You know, she said conversationally, my grandmother lived through the Amazon fires of 2089. She was 10 years old. Her entire village was surrounded by flames. No help coming. Everyone said they were dead. The crew listened, checking weapons and armor as she talked. Know what she did? She led 50 kids through 5 miles of burning jungle to the river, lost her left eye and most of the skin on her back. But every single kid made it out alive. Maria turned to face her crew. She was 10 years old. Not trained, not special, just human. Boris stood up, the flamethrower in his massive hands. My grandfather fought 20 wolves with an axe to save his dog. Lost 3 fingers. Dog lived to be 15. My mom lifted a car off me when I was 6, Raj added. Doctors said it was impossible. She did it anyway. One by one, the crew shared stories. Impossible stories. Human stories. That's what we are, Maria said as the planet grew larger on the screen. We do impossible things. We survive when we shouldn't. We fight when we can't win. And when kids are in danger? She smiled, that predator's smile again. We become something more than human. We become the nightmare that nightmares fear. The proximity alarm sounded. They were entering orbit. Battle stations, Maria commanded. Let's show these bugs why humans are classified as Deathworlders. The crew roared, an actual roar, primal and terrifying. It was a sound that would have sent any sensible species running, but humans weren't sensible. They were about to prove they were something far more dangerous. The first thing Maria saw when the stubborn mule broke through the atmosphere was death. The northern mining complex was gone, replaced by a writhing black mass that pulsed and moved like a living thing. The Vorthak had consumed everything. Buildings, vehicles, even the ground itself was stripped bare. Jesus Christ, someone whispered. Above the planet, 3 Vorthak bioships hung like diseased organs against the stars. Each one was the size of a city block covered in a shell that looked wet and wrong. They pulsed with a sick green light, and smaller Vorthak warriors dropped from them like seeds from a dying flower. Colony shelter is 2 clicks south, Lisa reported, her voice tight. They're completely surrounded. The Vorthak will break through in 15 minutes, maybe less. Maria stood in the bridge watching the nightmare unfold below them. Behind her, the crew waited. 12 humans against an army. Boris, Marcus, Diana, Raj, you're with me on the ground, Maria commanded. Thompson, Chen, Lisa, and the rest, keep those bioships busy. Don't let them drop more warriors. How? Lisa asked. We don't have ship weapons. Maria smiled. Ram them. Ram. Captain, that's suicide. Not if you do it right. Trust me. Maria turned to Thompson. You're the best pilot after me. The mule is yours. Make her dance. Thompson's grin was wild. Always wanted to play chicken with an alien mothership. The cargo bay doors opened to howling wind and the stench of death. The Vorthak had a smell, like rotting meat mixed with motor oil. It made the humans gag, but they didn't stop. Maria's ground team stood at the edge, looking down at the hellscape below. Remember, Maria shouted over the wind, we're not trying to win. We're buying time for the colonists to evacuate. Make noise, cause chaos, be human. She jumped. For a moment, she fell through alien sky, the ground rushing up to meet her. The grav pack on her back kicked in at the last second, slowing her descent just enough. She hit the ground hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain shot through her shoulder. She ignored it. The others landed around her. Boris immediately opened fire with his jury-rigged flamethrower, sending a stream of burning fuel into the nearest cluster of Vorthak. The alien screamed, a sound like metal tearing. They burn! Boris laughed, a booming sound that somehow seemed scarier than the aliens. They burn just fine. A Vorthak warrior 9 feet of black chitin and razor claws charged at Diana. She didn't dodge. Instead, she ran toward it, sliding under its attack at the last second and shoving a mining charge into what might have been its mouth. The explosion painted the ground green with alien blood. One down, she called out, already moving to the next target. About 10,000 to go. Above them, the stubborn mule was doing something impossible. Thompson had the old cargo ship dancing between the bioships, using the mining lasers to carve deep wounds in their organic hulls. When one ship tried to grab the mule with tentacle-like appendages, Thompson did something insane. He reversed thrust, ramming backward into the bioship with the reinforced cargo doors. Newton's third law, you ugly bastards. Thompson's voice crackled over the comm as he pulled away, leaving a truck-sized dent in the alien ship. On the ground, the battle had become chaos. Raj had taken control of a loading mech, using its industrial arms to literally tear Vorthak warriors apart. He was singing, some old Earth song about crushing enemies. Each swing of the mech's arms pulped another alien. But there were so many of them. A Vorthak caught Chen from behind, its claws punching through his left arm. The medic screamed, but instead of falling, he turned and shoved his entire medical kit into the wound the creature had made in his own arm. The cocktail of human medications, antibiotics, painkillers, and adrenaline, hit the Vorthak's system like poison. It convulsed and died in seconds. Turns out, Chen gasped, using his belt as a tourniquet on what was left of his arm. Human medicine is alien poison. He picked up his severed arm and started using it as a club, the bones making effective weapons against the Vorthak's eyes. That's disgusting, Raj called out. It's working! Chen laughed. He was laughing while missing an arm. Covered in both red and green blood, the adrenaline and combat stims had kicked in fully. He felt no pain, only the pure focus of survival. Maria carved a path through the swarm with mining lasers and explosive charges. Every step took her closer to the colony shelter. She could see it now. A reinforced dome with hundreds of terrified faces pressed against the transparent aluminum windows. Kids. So many kids. A massive Vorthak, twice the size of the warriors, blocked her path. This was something different. A commander maybe, or what passed for one in the swarm. Its forearms ended in claws that dripped acid. Big boy wants to play, Maria muttered. The creature moved faster than something that size should be able to move. Its claw caught Maria across the chest, tearing through her makeshift armor and into flesh. She felt ribs crack. Breathing became hard, but Maria Santos was human, and humans had evolved on a world that had been trying to kill them for millions of years. She grabbed the claw that was still in her chest and pulled herself forward along it, driving herself deeper onto the weapon. The Vorthak made a sound that might have been surprise. Maria got close enough to smell its breath like a sewer filled with corpses. My turn, she whispered, and detonated the charges on her belt. The explosion threw her backward, ripping the claw free from her chest. The Vorthak commander was less lucky. The blast had torn open its entire front section, exposing organs that glowed with bioluminescence. Maria lay on the ground, unable to stand. Her chest was a ruin of blood and exposed bone. By all rights, she should be dead. But the kids in that shelter were watching, and Maria Santos was human. She crawled. Above, the stubborn mule had turned into a weapon of pure chaos. Thompson had released his pets into one of the bioships through a hull breach. The screams coming from inside the organic vessel were unholy. Earth's insects, evolved in the crucible of the Deathworld, were eating the Vorthak ship from the inside out. Sydney funnelwebs are having a party in here, Thompson announced with glee. And the bullet ants just found what I think is their brain. The bioship lurched and started falling toward the planet. Thompson pulled the mule away just as the massive organism crashed into the Vorthak swarm below, crushing hundreds of warriors. One ship down, Lisa reported. Then quieter. Captain, your vitals. You need immediate medical attention. Maria had reached the shelter door. She could see the colonists inside. Various species, all looking at her with expressions of horror and awe. A human child, maybe 6 years old, had pressed her hand against the window. Maria pressed her bloody hand against the glass from the outside, leaving a red handprint. Open the emergency tunnel, Maria gasped into her comm. Get them out, now. Boris appeared beside her, his flamethrower empty, using it now as a club. Half his beard was burned off and something had taken a chunk out of his leg. Captain needs help, he said simply, then stood between her and the approaching swarm. Boris, get to safety, no. The big Russian's voice was calm. This is a good place to die. Protecting younglings. My grandfather would be proud. Marcus and Diana arrived, dragging Raj, who was missing his left foot but still conscious and swearing creatively. Chen stumbled up, still using his severed arm as a weapon, his remaining hand holding a Vorthak head. Got a souvenir, he said, then collapsed. They formed a circle around the shelter door, 6 humans, all wounded, some mortally. The Vorthak swarm surrounded them. Thousands of aliens against 6 broken humans, you know, Diana said, spitting blood. I thought we'd last longer. We lasted long enough, Maria whispered, watching through blurred vision as colonists began evacuating through the emergency tunnel Thompson had blasted open from the mule. The kids are getting out. The Vorthak charged. Boris roared, a sound from humanity's prehistoric past. When they fought saber-toothed cats with rocks and fire, he charged back, meeting the swarm head-on. A dozen Vorthak died before they brought him down, and even then he kept fighting, biting with his teeth when his hands stopped working. Marcus and Diana fought back to back, their military training showing even as their bodies failed. They made the Vorthak pay for every inch of ground. Chen injected himself with every combat stim in his medical kit. For 2 minutes he became something beyond human, faster, stronger, feeling no pain. He killed 30 Vorthak in those 2 minutes before his heart gave out from the strain. Raj, unable to stand, had armed every explosive charge they had left. "If I'm dying," he said with a grin, "I'm taking as many as these bugs with me as I can." The explosion shook the entire colony. Maria lay against the shelter door, her vision going dark. She could hear the last of the colonists escaping, could hear children crying. They were alive. They would make it. A shadow fell over her. A Vorthak warrior, its claws raised for the killing blow. Then the sky lit up. The stubborn mule, trailing fire and pieces of itself, came down like the hammer of God. Thompson had aimed the dying ship directly at the main swarm concentration, using the last of the fuel to turn it into a kinetic weapon. The impact was like a small nuclear blast. The shockwave flattened every Vorthak for a mile. The mule carved a crater 50 feet deep, its death taking thousands of the swarm with it. In the sudden silence that followed, Maria heard something impossible. Maria woke to pain and the sound of explosions. This confused her because she was pretty sure she had died. The confusion doubled when she realized she was inside the colony shelter, surrounded by alien medical equipment and the frightened faces of various species. "Don't move," a Zalathi medic said, her crystalline hands glowing as she worked on Maria's chest. "You've lost significant blood. Your heart stopped twice. The others?" Maria croaked. "Your Boris is alive, barely. The one called Thompson survived his crash. We don't understand how." He crawled out of the wreckage singing. The medic's light dimmed. "They died as warriors." Maria tried to sit up. The medic pushed her down, surprisingly strong for a creature made of living crystal. "You need to rest." Another explosion shook the shelter. "Closer this time. They're coming back," someone screamed. "The swarm is regrouping." Maria forced herself up, ignoring the screaming protest from her body. Through the shelter's windows, she could see the Vorthak massing again. There were fewer now, thousands instead of tens of thousands, but still far too many. And the colonists had nowhere left to run. "Where's Thompson?" Maria demanded. "The Australian? He's outside doing something insane with chemistry equipment." Of course he was. Maria stumbled out of the medical bay using the wall for support. Her chest was held together with alien medical gel and what looked like ceramic plates. Every breath was agony. She found Boris sitting against a wall, his left arm in a sling, burns covering most of his visible skin. "Captain," he said with a weak smile, "you look like shit. You look worse." She collapsed next to him. "We're not done yet." "I know." Boris pulled something from his pocket, a small earth plant in a reinforced container. "Was saving this. Pepper plant from home. Carolina Reaper." Maria stared at it, then at Boris. A slow smile spread across her face. "Boris, you beautiful bastard." "How much?" 12 plants. Was going to start garden on Mars." He shrugged with his good shoulder. "But this is better use, yes?" Outside, Thompson was indeed doing something insane. He'd raided the colony's chemistry lab and was mixing compounds with the focused intensity of a mad scientist. His entire left side was burned, one eye swollen shut, but he was humming as he worked. "Thompson," Maria called out. He looked up and grinned. "Captain. Good to see you walking. Well, stumbling. Close enough." He held up a container filled with something that glowed. "Remember that documentary about Earth's fungi? The ones that eat radiation? You didn't. I did. Mixed with some local bacteria and a growth accelerator I probably shouldn't have made." He tossed the container at a dead Vorthak. Within seconds, the corpse began dissolving, consumed by rapidly spreading fungus. Turns out Vorthak shells are close enough to Earth chitin. These little beauties will eat them alive. "That's biological warfare," Maria pointed out. "That's human warfare," Thompson corrected. "We use everything." The Vorthak were getting closer. The colonists had barricaded the shelter doors, but those wouldn't hold long. Maria could see the fear in their alien eyes, parents holding children, families pressed together, waiting for the end. "Not today," Maria muttered. She turned on the shelter's communication system. "Attention all colonists, I need your help." "We're going to poison them." The alien stared at her, A Thraxian with 4 eye stalks spoke up. We don't have weapons, yet we have something better. We have Earth biology. Maria held up Boris's pepper plant. This is capsaicin. To humans, it's spicy food. To insectoid species, it's a neurotoxin. We're going to gas them with it. That's insane, the Zalathi medic said. Welcome to humanity, Thompson called out cheerfully as he launched another fungus bomb at the approaching swarm. The next hour was controlled chaos. Every human spice in the colony was gathered. Pepper spray from security, hot sauce from the human section of the cafeteria, even decorative chili plants from the botanical garden. The colonists watched in amazement as the humans handled substances that would kill most species without protection. Boris, working one-handed, rigged the shelter's air system in reverse. Instead of filtering air in, it would blow air out, air saturated with vaporized capsaicin. This would be considered a war crime on Earth, Lisa mentioned, working despite a concussion that had her seeing double. Good thing we're not on Earth, Maria replied. The Vorthak hit the shelter walls. Their claws tore through the outer barriers like paper. The colonists screamed, pressing back against the far walls. Now, Maria shouted. Boris hit the switch. The air system roared to life, blasting superheated, capsaicin-laden air directly into the Vorthak swarm. The effect was immediate and horrifying. The Vorthak warriors convulsed, their nervous systems overwhelmed by what was essentially weaponized hot sauce. They clawed at their own eyes, tore at their breathing vents, and collapsed in writhing heaps. It's working, someone shouted. But the swarm was vast, and more warriors pushed past their dying brothers. They were learning, adapting, trying to find ways around the poison cloud. Thompson released his next surprise. The pets that had survived the battle had been breeding. In the warm, humid environment of Kepler 442b, the Earth insects had reproduced at an alarming rate. Hundreds of spiders, centipedes, and ants poured out of the containers Thompson had placed around the shelter. To the human eye, they were just bugs. To the Vorthak, they were something from a nightmare. The Earth insects attacked with venom evolved over millions of years on a death world. Vorthak warriors fell paralyzed from spider bites, screamed as bullet ants found gaps in their armor, convulsed as centipede venom destroyed their neural pathways. You brought an entire ecosystem of death, the Zalathi medic said, watching in horrified fascination. Nah, Thompson replied. Just the interesting parts. The second bioship had been silent until now, hanging back from the battle. Suddenly it began to pulse with a different light, deeper, angrier. It was preparing something. Orbital bombardment, Lisa said, reading her scanner. It's going to destroy the entire colony rather than let us win. Maria looked at Boris. Boris looked at Thompson. Thompson grinned. Well, Thompson said, I guess it's time for the stupid plan. We had a smart plan? Boris asked. Maria activated her comm, connecting to the stubborn mule's emergency beacon. The ship was dead, but some systems still functioned, including the cargo manifest tracker and the special cargo they'd been carrying. Remember those industrial mining charges we weren't supposed to have? Maria asked the shelter at large. They're armed. All of them. And they're scattered throughout the crash site. The Vorthak swarm had largely gathered around the shelter and the crashed ship, drawn by the concentration of prey. They were eating the mule's hull, consuming the metal and energy cells. How big of an explosion? The Thraxian asked. Big enough, Maria said. She looked at the colonists. Everyone in the deep shelter. Now. As the colonists ran for the reinforced underground bunker, Maria made her way to the shelter's communication array. She needed to send one message, aimed at the bioship above. She activated the array and spoke in clear, simple English, knowing the Vorthak had likely absorbed enough from eating communication equipment to understand. This is Captain Maria Santos of Earth. You want to know what makes humans dangerous? It's not our strength or our weapons. It's that we're insane enough to die smiling if it means taking you with us. She held up the detonator, making sure the bioship's sensors could see it. All those bodies you've been eating? They're full of Earth bacteria, Earth viruses, Earth fungi. You're already infected. If you run now, you might survive, or... She smiled, showing all her teeth. We can all die together. Your choice. The bioship hesitated. It had never encountered a species that would willingly destroy itself to win. Most species surrendered when faced with death. They begged, they bargained, they fled. Humans grinned and asked if their enemies wanted to die together. The bioship began to rise, pulling away from the planet. The Vorthak on the ground went into a frenzy, abandoned by their mothership, confused and leaderless. "They're retreating," someone shouted. "Not yet, they're not," Maria said. She turned to Thompson. "You still got that fungus?" "Loads of it." "Boris, how much fuel do we have left?" "Enough for one more surprise." Maria stood, swaying but determined. "Then let's give them something to remember us by." The next 10 minutes were humanity at its finest and most terrifying. Thompson's fungus, accelerated by Boris's improvised fuel air bombs, spread through the Vorthak swarm like wildfire. The capsaicin clouds drove them into the fungus clouds. The earth insects, now numbering in the thousands, attacked anything that moved. And through it all the humans sang, not beautifully. Most of them could barely stand. But they sang old Earth war songs, drinking songs, even children's songs. They sang as they fought, as they bled, as they refused to die. The Vorthak swarm broke. For the first time in their species' history, the Vorthak ran from prey. They fled back to their bioship, which was already showing signs of infection, strange growths spreading across its surface where Earth bacteria had taken hold. Maria watched them go, then finally allowed herself to collapse. Boris caught her with his good arm. "We did it," she whispered. "Duh," Boris agreed. "We did impossible thing." Thompson limped over, still grinning despite everything. "You know what the best part is? When the council asks how 12 humans defeated a Vorthak swarm." 3 days later, the Galactic Council fleet arrived at Kepler 442b expecting to find death. Instead, they found something far more disturbing. Humans were having a barbecue. Commander Prism of Stars stood at the landing ramp of her diplomatic vessel, her crystalline form flickering through various colors of confusion. The colony, which should have been destroyed, was very much intact. Damaged, yes, but intact. And in the central square, where the heaviest fighting had taken place, the surviving humans had set up what appeared to be a celebration. The smell hit her first. Burning meat mixed with something that made her optical sensors water despite not having tear ducts. She saw Boris, the large human with half his body covered in medical bandages, turning what looked like Vorthak legs over a fire made from wreckage. "Is he cooking them?" asked Tekfar, her aide, his gray skin pale with shock. "After we tested for toxins," Thompson called out cheerfully. He was in a wheelchair, his legs still healing but seemed in high spirits. "Tastes like crab, actually. Want some?" The gathered council representatives took a collective step back. Captain Santos approached, walking slowly with a cane. Her chest was still wrapped in medical tape and she moved like every step hurt. But she was smiling. "Commander Prism of Stars, thanks for coming, though you're a bit late for the fun part." "Captain Santos." Prism of Stars struggled to find words. "The reports we're receiving, they can't be accurate." "Which parts?" Maria asked, accepting a plate of food from Boris. "The part where we killed 10,000 Vorthak with hot sauce? Or the part where Thompson's pet spiders are now the alpha predators on this continent?" "All of it," Prism of Stars managed. Maria shrugged, then winced as the movement pulled at her injuries. "Come on, I'll show you around. You need to see this to believe it." The tour was a journey through insanity. The battlefield was littered with Vorthak corpses in various states of dissolution, some eaten by earth fungi that still glowed faintly in the shade, others showing signs of massive trauma from improvised weapons. One cluster of bodies was arranged in what appeared to be a defensive position. "They tried to build a barricade," Maria explained. "Against the ants." "Ants?" Hask, the Sorid tactical officer, asked. Thompson rolled his wheelchair over to a container. Inside, bullet ants the size of earth thumbs moved with purpose. "Bullet ants. One sting feels like being shot. 100 sting," he shrugged. "The Vorthak found out." "You deployed biological weapons," Prism of Stars said, her tone carefully neutral. "We deployed Earth," Thompson corrected. "There's a difference." They passed by the medical tent where Chen was helping treat colonists despite having only one arm. The other was in a preservation container, and he'd mentioned something about getting it reattached when they reached a proper facility. He was using his stump to hold down bandages while his remaining hand worked with practiced efficiency. "How is he still functional?" the Zelathi medic from the colony asked. "That level of trauma should have induced systemic shock." "Humans are weird," Chen called out, not looking up from his work. "We can lose up to 40% of our blood and keep going, lose limbs and keep fighting. Our bodies are basically biological tanks designed by evolution's worst nightmares. A group of colonial children ran past, playing some sort of game. They were being chased by a human child who was making growling noises. The alien children shrieked with delighted fear. "They're playing Predator," Lisa explained, noticing the council's confusion. "It's a human children's game. One child is the predator and hunts the others. Teaches evasion and tactical thinking. You train your younglings to hunt each other?" Tekvar asked, horrified. "How else would they learn?" Lisa replied, genuinely confused by the question. The tour continued to the makeshift workshop where Boris had set up operations. Despite his injuries, the big Russian was already working on repairs, welding with one hand while his other arm remained strapped to his chest. Around him, colonial engineers watched in fascination as he worked without safety equipment that they considered essential. "The heat," one insisted. "The radiation from the welding." "Is nothing," Boris said. "In Siberia we weld in snowstorms. This is pleasant." Prism of Stars noticed something else. The colonial inhabitants weren't avoiding the humans anymore. If anything, they seemed to gravitate toward them. A young Thraxian was sitting next to Thompson, listening intently as the Australian explained something about drop bears. A group of Zalathi were watching Boris work, their crystalline forms humming with interest. "They pack-bonded," Maria said quietly. "It's what humans do. We fought for them, bled for them, and now they're ours. Yours, our family. Our pack, our tribe, whatever you want to call it." Maria's expression grew serious. "And we protect our own." They reached the command center where the colony's leaders had gathered. The scene inside was surreal. Alien officials were studying human military history on their screens, specifically something called the Battle of Thermopylae. 300 humans held off hundreds of thousands. The colony administrator, a tall insectoid Mantari, asked, "That's impossible." "That's Thursday," Maria replied. Prism of Stars pulled up the tactical data from the battle. The numbers didn't make sense. 12 humans, minimally armed, had faced down a full Vorthak swarm. They'd lost 7. Chen, Raj, Marcus, Diana, and 3 others who'd died in the mule's crash. But they'd killed thousands and broken a force that had never been defeated. "How?" she asked simply. Maria was quiet for a moment, watching through the window as Boris taught alien children how to arm wrestle while Thompson started a lecture on the care and feeding of dangerous earth insects to a group of fascinated colonists. "You want to know the real difference between humans and other species?" Maria finally said. "Every species evolved to survive. We evolved to survive Earth, and Earth," she smiled, "Earth tries to kill us every single day. Hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, floods, predators that hunt in packs, microscopic organisms that eat us from the inside, temperatures that range from freezing to boiling. We don't just live there, we thrive there." "But that doesn't explain this," Hask said, gesturing at the battlefield. "Doesn't it?" Maria turned to face them fully. "We spent millions of years becoming the apex predator of a world designed to kill everything on it. We learned to use tools, make fire, work in groups. We learned that anything can be a weapon if you're creative enough. We learned that giving up means death, so we just don't." Thompson rolled over, having apparently been eavesdropping. "Plus, we're pack animals with anxiety disorders and pattern recognition turned up to 11. We literally evolved to look at dangerous things and think, 'I bet I could take that in a fight.'" "That's insane," Tekvar said. "Yes," Maria agreed. "That's the point. We're insane by galactic standards. We do things that don't make sense. We fight when we can't win. We sacrifice ourselves for others. We turn farming equipment into weapons and hot sauce into chemical warfare. We look at certain death and ask if it wants to be friends first." A commotion outside drew their attention. A young human girl, maybe 7 years old, had approached one of the Vorthak corpses that hadn't been cleared yet. The adult started moving to stop her, but she'd already poked it with a stick. "Is it dead?" she asked Thompson. "Very dead," he assured her. "Good. It tried to hurt my friend." She looked at the alien child hiding behind her, a small Zalathi who couldn't have been more than 5. "Don't worry, Shimmer. The bad bugs are gone. The humans killed them all." The 2 children walked away hand in hand, the human child protecting the alien child as naturally as breathing. Prism of Stars watched this and finally understood. It wasn't that humans were the strongest or the fastest or the smartest. It was that they were insane enough to fight the impossible and social enough to make others part of their pack. They would die for strangers' children as readily as their own. My report to the Council, she said slowly, will recommend immediate alliance with Earth. Just alliance? Maria asked, and a warning, Prism of Stars admitted. To never ever threaten anything humans consider theirs. Maria nodded, satisfied. Good choice. As the Council fleet prepared for departure, leaving behind supplies and medical aid, Prism of Stars had one last question. The infected bioship. Our scans show it made it to the quarantine zone before dying. But the infection? Yeah, about that, Thompson said with a grin that showed too many teeth. The fungus will die out in about a week. It can't survive without Earth-specific nutrients. But the Vorthak don't know that. You mean, they'll either stay in quarantine forever, terrified of Earth biology, or they'll try to study it and learn that humans weaponized athletes' foot fungus and hot sauce to defeat them. Thompson's grin grew wider. Either way, they won't be bothering anyone for a long, long time. Prism of Stars stared at the humans. They'd won through insanity, determination, and biological warfare using food seasonings and medical conditions. They'd turned certain death into victory through pure, stubborn refusal to die. I have one final question, she said. Your crew, they died as heroes. How do you honor them? Maria's expression softened. Boris? The big Russian reached into a bag and pulled out small containers. Seeds, he said simply. From Earth. We plant them where they fell. Let Earth claim this soil too. Trees from Earth? Tekvar asked.